And we're live. Guys, welcome to the Bassin Magazine podcast. Bassin Magazine is the official magazine of the Weekend Angler. I'm here. I'm Jay Angel. I'm going to be your host for tonight. With me tonight, I have Charles Anderson. And Charles Anderson wears too many hats to even list them all, but just to give you a quick rundown, Minorca Bait and Tackle, Shangaloo Outdoors, Bassin in the Boot, just to name a few. Anyways, the man, the myth, the legend, Charles Anderson. How you doing tonight, Charles?
I'm great, Jay. I don't know about the man, the myth, the legend, but I do wear a lot of hats. So glad to be with you tonight.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you. You know, guys, one of the Bassin Magazine podcasts, one of our brands is technical difficulties. I was going to have Mark Edwards. Man, Mark was having some problems with Wi-Fi. Oh, my goodness. So good old standby Charles Anderson, man. I can always count on him. A lot of people count on Charles. Well, Charles Anderson is also a tournament director for quite a few tournaments. But what I want to talk about is the shad spawn, Vidalia, Louisiana, guys. Great vacation destination, fantastic fishing. Lake Bruin, Lake St. John, Concordia, Old River, Black River. Goodness. Charles told me 60 different places you can put your bass boat in within 60 miles of Vidalia. What a place I'd love to live.
It's great, Jay. We got a lot of water. We're blessed up here. We're in kind of central east Louisiana, so right across the bridge from Natchez, Mississippi. But we just got all kind of water up here, like some of the lakes you mentioned. But then we got some little hidden gems too that we don't tell everybody about. And like you said, right now the shad spawn's in full bloom. A lot of the top water, you can catch them on spinner baits, buzz baits, whatever the case may be. They're really up, just gorging themselves on the shad. Kind of a crazy spring we had. We never really had a long cold spell, but we had several cold spells, so to speak, but they didn't have any link to them. So I think the fish were a little confused. So we had bass moving up in waves to spawn, especially at St. John, Concordia, Bruin, our Oxbow lakes that our area is pretty famous for, even down around False River. So it wasn't your typical spawn where most of the fish go up at one time when that magical number of 60 degrees hits. It was kind of just waves. So the kind of what we saw here. And now, so when you have waves of spawning fish like that, you get waves coming off the bed. So you get this big wave of fish that are coming off the bed. And of course, they're feeding up. They're starved because they've been guarding nest or they've been, laying eggs. And now they're trying to build their strength back up or whatever the case may be with some of the bigger female fish. And so we're starting to really reap the rewards of the shad spawn. And we're throwing the A-rigs a little bit, the smaller A-rigs up around trees and just catching a lot of fish. Top water's starting to turn on a good bit. That's my favorite time of the year outside of catching them on a jig. I really like catching them on a frog, buzz bait, spook type baits, prop baits, or whatever the case may be. So we're having a good time up here right now. In fact, tomorrow night, our Bassin in the Boot Big Bass Thursday is going to be on St. John. So hoping that turns on and the fish on St. John are hungry because it's been a little while since St. John has been his typical self. St. John's typically good for some 4.5, 5 pounders this time of year on a regular basis, but we haven't seen those fish coming out of St. John in a little while, not consistently anyway. Seen a good sack here or there, but it's been a while since we've had that consistent fish that St. John's known for. But hoping tomorrow, looking for good things.
Man, that'd be great. 4.5, 5 pounders consistently. When do you think the jig bite's going to turn on?
Well, it's coming to, we've got some guys around here that say it's never not on. The jig is probably our most popular bait around here, whether you're flipping cypress trees or out on docks or stuff. A lot of the guys that we have around here, they'll fish a jig. Excuse me, Jeff. They'll fish a jig year round. I personally like it when the weather's a little cooler, a little colder. So we're coming out of my favorite time to fish a jig. Not saying I won't flip it or pitch it, depending on what you do. In my opinion, a jig's made to emulate a crawfish. And right now the crawfish are, I like to tell people when we eat crawfish, that's when the bass eat crawfish, that's when they're plentiful. And right now they're going through that molting stage. So if you got like an Okeechobee crawl or, maybe a black blue kind of moving into a green pumpkin pearl brown, your browns are good right now because the crawfish are just going through that color change. And you can catch a lot of fish on the jig year round. my personal favorite time, like I said, is cold weather jig fishing. Right now, I'm gonna throw some top waters. I'm gonna mix in a crankbait every now and then, and just see if I can catch them the easy way, I suppose.
Well, once the water gets a little warmer, you said the downside your jig's like 3/8 ounce and it's a little bit smaller, soft plastic.
Yeah, we'll have some guys go to finesse and, like you said, shrink their trailer a little bit. They'll go to a finesse style jig where they'll cut some of the skirt away and make it a little puffy or whatever the case may be. But like I said, right now we're concentrating on some top water and catching them the fun, easy way. When nothing better than a 5-pounder blowing up on a frog. There's I think there's some of that technical difficulty showing up there, Jay.
Yeah, I know. I told you, Best Magazine podcast, we have technical difficulties.
Yes, sir. Well, I finally got you there. That looks like Shongaloo bow coop worm right there. It's a 10-inch ribbon tail. If that's a wonderful. A little later in the year, I like to fish that, especially pulling it off some ledges and stuff. It's not the big monster that you would the big monster you would throw, but that one there's a little bit of a kind of a finesse monster. It's got that ribbon tail, like I said, it's a 10-inch worm. That worm right there, I'm quite proud of. I actually got Shongaloo Outdoors mentioned in Bassmaster magazine. I know that's kind of a competitor, but that's one of the proud moments we are for that Shongaloo bow coop. So we're glad to have that worm in our arson, and it's a good seller for us. And we offer it in just about any color you can dream of, from Morning Dawn to South African, red bug, you name it, we offer it.
What about you? You also have like a 7 or 8-inch ribbon tail?
Yes, we got a 7-inch. We call it the Shongaloo 7. You know, we get real creative around here. We call our mall the mall. So you can imagine that we call our 7-inch ribbon tail the Shongaloo 7. And you know, when Jeffrey and I started this bait business, Shongaloo Outdoors, it was kind of born out of our Bass in the Boot, our online digital presence. And we didn't realize it, but one of the hardest things is naming these baits, because you have to name them close enough to the national product that everybody knows what you're talking about, but you got to stay far enough away from that national product that you don't get a cease and desist letter in the mail too. So the Shongaloo 7 is pretty similar to the culprit 7-inch ribbon tail worm. So if you're familiar with that worm, it's they're similar in design. I promise you, Shongaloo Outdoors catches 2 to 1 when it's compared to any of the national brands. At least if you're a better fisherman than I am. But we're proud to have it on the shelf, and we can't compete with the big boys, but we always tell people that, you know, our baits one-on-one can, and if you just give us a try, we'll earn your business.
Here's another thing I like from Shongaloo Outdoors.
Yeah, that looks like our grunch. Just an excellent flipping bug. Whether you Texas rig it, you can you put it on the back of a buzz bait. So one of my favorite ways to fish that is actually on the back of a buzz bait. You're pulling it flat across the water, and it holds that buzz bait up a little longer for that strike. And good presentation. Excellent bait right there. The grunch is actually named after a New Orleans folklore creature, and we enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. It's sort of like the any of the national bugs, but pretty much just represents, again, you're trying to represent that crawfish.
Yeah, you know, I just, man, things like that, I just put them on the back of a jig or even Texas rig it, you know.
That's right.
Oh, goodness.
Now, one of the unique uses for that grunch is a lot of our guys put it on a chatterbait, and they'll turn it sideways, and it sort of gives it like a fish tail movement. And they'll actually hook the bait instead of hooking it like you typically would for Texas rig or whatever. The bait will actually be vertical in the water, and it almost serves like fish tail, the rear end of a fish as it's flapping through the water. So had a lot of people that like to hook it that way on a chatterbait. It's kind of different, but it runs true as long as you keep the hook in the center. Yes, sir.
So the hook will be inserted like this, come out like that.
Yes, sir.
Wow. Look at that
But
profile, guys. Look at
so
that
it's just
profile.
so it's that's something we're
Man,
proud of. You know, Jay, right now before we actually get into the plastic part of the season, or at least my favorite part of the season, once you get the plastics out and you're flipping and pitching shaky heads and different things like that. I mean, right now we're really looking at that top water bite, and I'm not sure if you have a sample of it, but Shongaloo Outdoors actually has its own prop bait. It's we call it the Hodgepodge, which is actually named after a good friend of mine, Jimmy Hodges. I think you and Jimmy had talked on
yes.
the phone a little bit.
We've
And
talked on the phone several times. We're trying to get together to go fishing. Hodges, man, what a
I tell you what, you talk about a legend
legend.
in our minds. That guy, look, he's forgot more about fish than I'll ever learn. So just a
I'm
wonderful
looking
guy.
forward.
And we started to add the Shongaloo prop bait, so to speak, and it's sort of like the Chapo or any other whopper plopper bait that
Sure, sure.
you would throw. I mean, it's very similar in style. And so we
Love this.
started to just get some prototypes and stuff, and try to get it out on the market a little bit. And so Mr. Jimmy Hodges, he decided he wanted to fish some of it. So he fished it, and he actually brought me. He called me one day. He was over at Old River, and where our camp is. In fact, I was just checking on my camp when we went live here, so I pulled over. But he was fishing it, and he probably had 4.5, 5 pound fish in his boat that he had caught. And I mean, he was just tired, exasperated. He was so happy he was catching fish. So we decided to name the bait after him. We call it the Hodgepodge, and it's been a good seller for us. It's an excellent top water bait, and like I said, it's like the national brands. One of the keys I like to ours is on the prop at the back. There's actually a plastic insert that goes over that wire, and it sort of keeps it from bending. And you know, some of the national brands you don't have that, and when you bounce it off a cypress tree, the pier, or whatever, it'll take a little bend, and that wire eventually will break. Well, we've got a little plastic tubing over ours, and that keeps that wire from bending back and forth and breaking over time. So a little better design than some of the national brands. Of course, I happen to believe that a lot of national brands, they want it to tear up eventually. That way you got to come back and buy another one. That's just smart business, I guess. But long story short, I think ours is going to last you a little longer.
What's their plan of obsolescence? So this is Shongaloo.com. That's how people can log on to and see your product line, correct?
Yeah, Shongaloo.com is our salt plastics, and you can get apparel on there, whether it be caps or whatever. The tungsten's on there. And Jay, one of the things that tungsten's only made in a couple places in the world, and so anybody who's got tungsten's importing it from somewhere outside the states. Long story short, ours is made in some of the same factories as the national brands. I won't call out the national brands, but ours is the non-chip black tungsten. It's got the size right there on the side, so you don't have to guess if it's a 3/8 or a quarter or whatever. So our tungsten is second to none, and we choose not to quadruple our money. We don't mark it up so that it's out of reach. So if you're a person who's been putting off tungsten because you didn't want to pay that price, get on Shongaloo.com, take a look at our tungsten, and I think that's affordable to just about anywhere. It's going to be right there, pretty competitive with the lead weights. I think ours is about $7.99 for most of our typical 3-packs, and you just can't beat that. The national brand is up around $10, $11, $12, and we just want to make sure that we can have an affordable product for your weekend angler, and that's our goal, to set out and just have good quality products for people like Jeffrey and I who just love to fish.
Well, the Bassin Magazine definitely appreciates that, since we are the official magazine of the weekend angler. So, not everybody can afford top dollar for their fishing products.
Exactly, and that's some of our explanations sometimes when talking about our product, because on the shelf, a bag of our baits with the same number, and it's going to be about $5.99 a bag, which I get told all the time from friends and folks who come in Minorca Bait and Tackle. They tell me, well, I can get this brand over here for $1 or so cheaper. And I try to explain to people that, ours is a hand injected plastic. And when you have a hand injected plastic, that plastic's just going to hold up a little better than the national brands who have to thin theirs to push it through these pneumatic machines and different things. So not knocking any of their product, just saying that a hand injected bait, whether it's our bait or someone else, that hand injected bait is just going to have a little better quality.
Wi-Fi. Just not fun. Goodness. I do apologize about the connectivity problems we're having, Charles.
I can hear you fine, Jay. I'm not sure if our listeners out there can hear us or see us, if it's going out or not. I'm not real sure, but
goodness. He just said he could hear me fine, then boom, poof, he's gone. Wow, this is very frustrating, guys. I do apologize about this. The Bassin Magazine podcast seems to be having some technical difficulties once again. There's Charles back.
Kick me out, man.
And he's back.
You didn't want me in the studio with you anymore. I just got the boot.
Yeah, Bassin in the boot. He got the boot. Bassin in the boot.
So we seem to have an internet connection back, but yeah, Jay, down here now, you know, for our listeners who are tuning in, we're in central Louisiana, and this is a place that it's kind of a well-kept secret. Of course, the Major League Fishing and stuff have been here, but one of the things that just this week, as an ambassador to our area, I was able to go down to Baton Rouge and meet with our Lieutenant Governor, Billy Nungasser, with a group of people from the area, and had an excellent time down there, an excellent conversation with Lieutenant Governor. And one of the things is to promote tourism is one of his biggest goals as the Lieutenant Governor, of course. So we talked a lot about our area and the bass fishing and the pan fishing, whether it be brim, white perch, even the catfishing in our area. And he's excited to have Louisiana tourism to kind of kick attention our way. I know we talked about having him over to promote our area a little bit and to try to get more people here, not only for our lakes and streams and stuff and our businesses to benefit from it, but some of our lodges in the area that are second to none. When you stay at Lakeview Lodge, I mean, it's just wonderful. Lakeview is a place that Paul and Angel Rogers do an excellent job hosting our tournaments there. We have Sportsman's on Concordia. Up at St. John, we got Spokane and a number of others. I mean, you're talking about top quality lodges on wonderful lakes, oxbows, catching fish. It just doesn't get any better than that. And our area has that to offer. And I think the secret's getting out because we're getting more and more people from the Monroe area, more and more